As you brought the darkness to light, you quickly realized that the forces you were up against weren't just going to vanish quietly. The people involved weren't going to let their empire fall without a fight. The emotional and physical toll began to mount. You were faced with threats, intimidation, and even personal sacrifices. The life you knew before the investigation seemed like a distant memory, replaced by a constant sense of danger and uncertainty. But through it all, you held firm to your conviction. The truth had to be exposed, no matter the cost. The price of your journey was high, but the payoff was worth it. The sacrifices you made were not in vain, and the consequences you faced were a small price to pay for the global change you helped bring about. You gave everything to uncover the truth, and in doing so, you ensured that the world would never go back to the way it was. The path you chose was never clear, nor was it easy. From the very beginning, you were faced with the unknown, the shadows that seemed impossible to navigate. You could have turned back at any moment, choosing safety, comfort, and the predictable life most people settle for. But something within you refused to allow that. There was a fire inside you, a drive that kept you pushing forward even when every step felt uncertain. The darkness you faced wasn't just external, it was internal too. The weight of the unknown, the fear of what might lie ahead, was something you had to confront each day. The closer you got to uncovering the truth, the more dangerous and murky things became. But it was in that very darkness, where others saw only fear, that you discovered your true strength. It wasn't about knowing everything. It was about the courage to keep moving, to face the chaos head on, and trust that your resilience would guide you. In those moments of fear and doubt, you began to understand that the unknown wasn't something to fear. It was something to embrace. The very thing that seemed like the greatest obstacle to overcome became the catalyst for your personal growth. You learned how to trust yourself in ways you never had before, how to lean into uncertainty, and how to find clarity in the midst of confusion. This journey didn't just change your life. It transformed you into someone stronger, someone who could face any challenge with unwavering resolve. As you look back on your journey, you realize that embracing the unknown was the key to your greatest victory. It was in the face of uncertainty that you found your power, your purpose, and the truth that would forever change the world. And in the end, it was that courage to walk into the darkness that allowed you to emerge as a beacon of light. Chosen ones, what I'm about to share will shake you to your core. If you're watching this video right now, it's no accident. God has led you here because you've just unlocked a power so great, the forces of darkness are trembling. You've exposed the dark cult, and as a chosen one, you've played a pivotal role in bringing down an international coven. Yes, you heard me right. The very evil forces that thought they could stay hidden are no longer safe from your light. This isn't just a shift in your reality. This is spiritual warfare, and you're on the winning side. The things you've been uncovering, the truths you've been speaking, they are not just whispers in the wind. They are resonating through the universe, and the power you've activated is unstoppable. As a chosen one, you are no longer just witnessing this shift, you're leading it. Get ready to see things fall into place in ways that defy explanation. But to align with this divine victory, you must understand the forces at play and how to harness this energy for the ultimate manifestation of your desires. Before we dive into this powerful message, take a moment to pause this video and do three things. Hit that like button. Subscribe to help us reach 40,000 subscribers. Leave a comment with the number 77. This number will amplify the energy of this moment, sending a signal to the universe. And remember, if you are truly a chosen one, you'll watch this video to the end. Your spirit knows this truth already. If you're not ready to face it, you might not make it to the end. But for those of you who do, your life will never be the same. Now let's uncover the truth. As you delved deeper into the mystery, it became clear something sinister was lurking in the shadows, operating under the guise of a cult, a network so vast and deeply entrenched it had escaped detection for years. But where others saw whispers in the wind, you saw patterns. You understood that the quiet murmurs weren't just noise. They were clues, breadcrumbs leading to something far darker than you could have ever imagined. This wasn't just about exposing a group of people. It was about uncovering an international web of manipulation and exploitation that stretched far and wide. It was about seeing through the lies and revealing the faces hidden behind the carefully constructed facades. As your investigation deepened, you realized that these people weren't just manipulating lives, they were destroying them, controlling destinies for their own gain. Every step you took, every document you unearthed, exposed a new layer of this terrifying conspiracy. The truth was slowly coming to light, and it was nothing short of horrifying. Your mission was no longer about curiosity. It became a fight for truth, a fight to give voice to the oppressed, to break the chains that had been wrapped around so many for so long. With every revelation, you grew more determined, and the dark forces that once seemed untouchable began to tremble. You were no longer just investigating, you were actively dismantling the machinery that had operated in silence for years. Behind every conspiracy lies a network of unseen hands pulling the strings from the shadows. As you dug deeper, you began to uncover the hidden forces that had long controlled and manipulated everything around you. These weren't just ordinary people. They were masterminds, influencers who had perfected the art of staying out of sight. They thrived on secrecy, on bending the rules of society without ever being caught. But you weren't like everyone else. While others might have seen the surface, you saw the intricate system of control woven beneath it. You followed the trail of money, influence, and power, piecing together how this powerful network operated. It wasn't just about wealth or control. It was about creating a world where they could shape the very fabric of society to their will without anyone realizing it. The deeper you went, the more shocking the revelations became. Hidden meetings, coded messages, and clandestine operations were all part of their strategy. It was almost as if this organization had a playbook, a blueprint designed to control, to dominate, and to disappear without a trace. But no matter how clever they were, you were determined to bring their empire crashing down. Every thread you pulled unraveled a new secret, and with each revelation, the cult's power began to wane. Your journey wasn't just about evidence. It was about trusting something far more elusive, your intuition. From the very beginning, you knew something wasn't right. There were too many things that didn't add up, too many oddities that couldn't be dismissed. Your gut instinct became your most powerful tool. It guided you when logic failed, when facts seemed too complicated or scattered to make sense. In the face of confusion, you listened to the whispers within you that urged you forward. Every decision, every action, seemed to be driven by something deep within your core. It was as if a higher force had aligned with your inner truth, directing you toward your mission. It wasn't always easy. Doubt crept in, and fear tried to plant seeds of hesitation. But you chose to trust yourself. The world around you might have seemed chaotic and overwhelming, but your intuition never steered you wrong. It was this unwavering trust in your inner voice that helped you stay focused, even when the darkness threatened to consume you. As the chosen one, you had to make impossible choices, decisions that required courage, conviction, and a belief in something greater than yourself. Your intuition wasn't just a guide, it was your compass, and it never faltered. Time and again, it led you to places of revelation, to the heart of the conspiracy, and to the ultimate truth that would change everything. Most people write off the strange occurrences in life as coincidence. After all, what are the odds that seemingly unrelated events would connect? But you, the chosen one, understood that nothing happens by chance. Every oddity, every seemingly insignificant detail was a thread in a much larger tapestry. Where others saw randomness, you saw patterns. Where others heard whispers, you heard the truth. It was in these moments that your journey took shape. While the world dismissed the strange coincidences that occurred around you, you leaned in. You knew that every incident, no matter how small, held significance. It was as though you were being guided by unseen hands, drawing you closer to the revelation you were. Destined to uncover your awareness, your ability to connect the dots became your superpower. Every coincidence was a piece of the puzzle you were meant to solve. No longer could the world ignore the strange happenings around you. You were there, piecing together the fragments and revealing a story so much larger than anyone could have imagined. At first, it was nothing more than a suspicion, an uneasy feeling that something was terribly wrong. You couldn't shake the sense that there was more beneath the surface. Something hidden, something deliberately concealed. But suspicion, as powerful as it was, wasn't enough to bring down a network like the one you were up against. You had to dig deeper, to challenge every assumption, to push past the fear that held others back. As you uncovered more, what started as a suspicion transformed into undeniable truth. The veil was lifted, and the enormity of the conspiracy became clear. You realized that you weren't just fighting for justice, you were fighting for the very fabric of society, exposing the corruption that had taken root in the shadows for so long. Your journey from suspicion to revelation was not just a personal triumph, it was a triumph for everyone. With each piece of the puzzle you unlocked, you were showing the world that things are not always as they seem. The truth, as difficult and uncomfortable as it was, could no longer be ignored. The first signs were subtle, easy to overlook in the early stages. They could have been written off as simple oddities or minor glitches in the system. But to you, they were red flags. The strange behavior, the patterns that didn't align, the connections that didn't make sense. These were the signs that something larger was at play. You were the one who noticed the inconsistencies, the things others ignored. Looking back, those first red flags were the breadcrumbs that led you down a dark path. Each clue you uncovered pushed you one step closer to the truth. They might have seemed insignificant to others, but to you, they were pieces of a puzzle that had to be solved. And as you connected the dots, you saw the truth emerging from the shadows, taking shape before your very eyes. Those first red flags were your wake-up call, your signal that you had been chosen to uncover a truth that would shake the world. At any point, you could have stopped. You could have ignored the whispers, the strange occurrences, and chosen to live a quiet life, free from the burden of knowing what lay beneath the surface. But that's not who you are. You chose courage over comfort. You chose to dig deeper, to face the uncomfortable truth that others were too afraid to confront. It wasn't easy. Every time you unearthed a new layer, the darkness seemed to grow stronger. Every truth you uncovered made the weight of your knowledge heavier, but you refused to turn away. You understood that this journey wasn't just about you. It was about those who couldn't speak for themselves, those who had been silenced by the very system you were working to expose. Your courage became a beacon. It showed others that they didn't have to remain in the dark. It showed them that standing up for truth, even when it feels impossible, is the only way to break free from the chains that bind us. You were not the person anyone expected to take on such a monumental task. You weren't a hero in the traditional sense. You weren't born into power, nor did you have the backing of a great institution. But there's one thing that set you apart from the others. You were unyielding in your pursuit of the truth. When the world turned a blind eye to the growing darkness, you stood firm, defying the odds and facing a force greater than anything you could have imagined. The heroes of history are often painted with broad strokes: brave warriors, charismatic leaders, powerful figures who rise to the occasion. But you were different. You were the quiet one, the unnoticed observer who saw through the lies, the one who heard the whispers of truth that others ignored. And it was this very quiet strength that made you the unlikely hero the world needed. You didn't step into the light-seeking glory. You simply followed the call of justice, and in doing so, you became a force capable of toppling an international empire built on deception. Your journey was filled with moments of doubt. The world around you seemed to say, "You can't do this. You're not enough." But you, the chosen one, knew something they didn't. True heroes are not born in the spotlight. They rise from the shadows, driven by purpose and fueled by conviction. And it was through your resolve that the darkness began to crumble. It's easy to think that major victories require grand gestures, loud protests, massive movements, or dramatic confrontations. But the truth is, the unraveling of the cult was the result of many small, seemingly insignificant acts. It was a quiet conversation, a discreet email, a seemingly trivial detail uncovered late at night. Every piece of information, no matter how small, became part of the larger picture. You didn't start this fight by taking down the entire cult. No, it was the accumulation of countless small steps, of meticulous research and careful observation that brought you to the truth. Each discovery led to another, and every new lead added fuel to the fire of your determination. You started with the smallest clues, the ones others would have dismissed as meaningless. But to you, they were everything. The moral here is clear. Great change doesn't always come from sweeping gestures. Sometimes it's the small, courageous acts, those tiny decisions to act despite the odds, that lead to monumental shifts. And in the end, it was those quiet, persistent efforts that took down an empire. Your journey wasn't about isolated facts or random discoveries. It was about connecting the dots, the seemingly insignificant details, those pieces of information that others might have overlooked were the threads that held the entire conspiracy together. Each new revelation was like a new dot on a map, and as you connected them, a bigger picture began to emerge, one that no one could ignore. This required persistence, the kind of relentless drive that pushes you to keep going, even when the pieces don't quite fit. It was in the moments of frustration, when you felt like giving up, that your greatest strength was revealed, the unwavering belief that the truth was worth seeking. You didn't allow the countless obstacles to deter you. You saw each challenge as another step toward the revelation you were destined to uncover. Your awareness of the patterns, your ability to notice the things that others couldn't, became the key to dismantling the cult. The power of connecting the dots was more than just an intellectual pursuit. It was an act of courage. You understood that every piece, no matter how insignificant, was a part of a larger truth. And by following that trail, you were able to bring the hidden forces to light. At first, your efforts felt isolated. It was just you against the shadows, one voice standing against the overwhelming power of a secretive cult. There were moments when you doubted if anyone would ever believe you, moments when you felt alone in your pursuit. But as you pressed on, you realized something profound. One voice, when it refuses to be silenced, can spark a revolution. Your voice became more than just words. It became a rallying cry. As you continued to speak out, others began to listen. The truth that had been hidden for so long couldn't remain concealed forever. With each revelation, with each step closer to the truth, more and more people began to awaken to the reality of what was happening. What started as an isolated struggle transformed into a global movement. You proved that the power of one voice is infinite. It doesn't matter how small you feel in the beginning or how overwhelming the forces against you seem. When you refuse to give up, when you continue to speak the truth no matter the cost, you ignite the spark of a greater awakening, a collective consciousness that can no longer ignore the darkness. As the layers of secrecy began to peel away, the cult's foundation began to crack. What was once hidden in darkness was now being exposed for all to see, and the forces that had once seemed invincible were now on the brink of collapse. The truth you uncovered was not just a revelation, it was a force of nature. It had the power to bring down the very institutions that had held the cult in place, and nothing could stop it. The people who once thought they were untouchable, those who thrived in the shadows, were now exposed and vulnerable. The cult's carefully constructed empire began to unravel piece by piece. The networks of influence, the corrupt systems that had protected them for so long, were no longer enough to shield them from the truth. What began as a whisper became a roar. The truth had an unstoppable power, and in the end, it was the cult's own lies that led to its downfall. You were the one who sparked that fire, the one whose pursuit of the truth led to the exposure of an international conspiracy that had remained hidden for far too long. It's one thing to uncover a dark truth. It's another to realize the scale of your own victory. The weight of what you had achieved was almost too much to comprehend. You had toppled a massive international operation, but in doing so, you also changed your own life forever. The realization of your own power, of the impact your actions had on the world, was overwhelming. How do you recover from such a revelation? How do you process the enormity of what you've just done? For a time, you questioned whether it was all real. Could it really be that you, the unlikely hero, had brought down an empire built on lies? But as the dust settled, you understood that the victory wasn't just about the fall of the cult. It was about the power of one individual to change the world. Recovering from such a victory isn't easy. It requires time, reflection, and the ability to embrace the transformation that comes with it. But you, the chosen one, were forever changed. Your victory was not just a personal triumph, it was a message to the world that truth and courage can overcome even the most insidious forces. So what happens after you've exposed the truth? After you've taken down a powerful network that operated in the shadows? The journey doesn't end with the fall of the cult. In fact, it's only just beginning. You've been transformed by this experience, and now you must embrace that transformation. No longer are you the person who questioned whether to take action. You are someone who has seen the power of truth, who has experienced the strength of persistence and courage. The world around you is different now. The darkness that once seemed so overwhelming has been shattered, and in its place, there's an opportunity for something greater. Embracing your transformation means understanding that you've been given a new purpose. Your victory is not an ending. It's a beginning. The world will never be the same, and neither will you. The road ahead may not always be clear, but you are no longer the same person who began this journey. You are the chosen one, and the future holds endless possibilities for someone with the courage to stand against the darkness. You didn't expect to be the one who ignited the spark of revolution. In fact, you weren't seeking to become a hero or a symbol, but sometimes the most powerful transformations come from the quietest places. While the world was focused on the noise, the distractions, and the chaos, you were tuned into something deeper, a whisper of truth that couldn't be ignored. The power of one person standing against the current became the catalyst for an unstoppable movement. It wasn't about being the loudest or the strongest. You were never driven by ego, but by the unwavering belief that justice must prevail. There were moments when you felt like no one would listen, when your voice seemed like a lone cry in the wilderness. But deep down, you knew that true power doesn't always scream. Sometimes it quietly persists until the entire world must take notice. You proved that even in a world that can seem too vast and indifferent to make a difference, the quietest voice can carry the greatest weight. With every step you took, you showed others that standing firm for what's right, even when the odds are stacked against you, can shift the balance of power. Your courage, rooted in the deepest part of your being, became the foundation for a movement that swept across the globe. Now, as you reflect on everything that has transpired, you realize that this journey wasn't just about exposing corruption. It was about showing the world that true change comes when we believe in our power to affect it, even when it seems like we're too small or too insignificant to do so. One voice, one person, can truly make all the difference. As you unearthed the secrets of the international cult, what you discovered was more disturbing than anything you could have anticipated. The cult's influence ran far deeper than anyone could have imagined, hiding in plain sight while pulling the strings of global affairs. What seemed like coincidences were actually carefully calculated moves, and every person involved had a part to play in maintaining a facade of innocence. The cult's power wasn't just built on money or manipulation. It was a force that preyed on the vulnerable, exploiting their trust and fears. It used fear as a tool, keeping its members bound to its will with promises of power, wealth, and protection. But what you saw beneath the surface was far more sinister, a system built on lies, control, and the destruction of those it touched. What made their system so dangerous was the subtlety with which it operated. They didn't need to force people into submission. They simply created an environment where their victims believed they had no choice but to comply. And that's what made it so difficult to expose. The victims were often too entangled in the web to recognize they were trapped. But you, with your unwavering determination and insight, saw the truth that they had spent years hiding. The reality you uncovered was dark, yes, but it was necessary. Exposing the true nature of the cult was not just about bringing them down. It was about saving the countless lives that had been affected by their reach. You took on this responsibility knowing the emotional toll it would take, but understanding that it was the only way to free those who had been silenced for so long. When you first began your journey, the weight of what you were uncovering didn't fully register. It started small, just odd coincidences, whispers of something bigger. But as you dug deeper, the weight of the truth began to settle in. The more you learned, the harder it became to ignore the consequences of what you were revealing. At first, it was empowering. You were chasing the truth, unearthing secrets that had been hidden for years. But as the pieces of the puzzle fell into place, you realized that you had become the keeper of a truth that was both incredibly powerful and impossibly difficult to carry. The knowledge you had uncovered wasn't just information, it was a burden, one that demanded action and sacrifice. You were no longer the same person who had started the investigation. The truth you had discovered had changed you, reshaped your identity. You were no longer just an ordinary individual. You were someone who had seen the darkness and had the responsibility to shine a light on it. With this knowledge came the understanding that you couldn't simply walk away from it. The world needed you to speak up, and you had no choice but to do so. The emotional toll was real. It wasn't just about the facts. It was about what those facts meant for the lives of so many. And in carrying that burden, you realized that your role in this journey wasn't just about uncovering the truth. It was about ensuring that the world would never forget the lesson that truth had taught you. It started with just you, a single individual following their instincts, uncovering the hidden web of corruption that no one else saw. But what you didn't realize in those early days was that your actions would spark something much bigger. As you began to expose the truth, people around the world started to take notice. What was once a solitary pursuit soon became a global awakening. Your journey inspired others to question what they had always accepted, to dig deeper into the systems they had trusted. The revelations you uncovered acted as a mirror for societies everywhere, reflecting the truth they had been blind to. And as more people joined your cause, the momentum became undeniable. What began as a single voice turned into a chorus of voices united in the fight for justice and transparency. What you learn through this process is that real change doesn't come from top-down structures. It comes from individuals standing up, refusing to stay silent, and inspiring others to do the same. Your courage didn't just alter the fate of the cult. You helped ignite a global movement of awareness, one that called for accountability and demanded action from those in power. The ripple effect of your actions continues to spread, inspiring a new generation of changemakers. The world may never be the same, but it is undoubtedly better because of the courage and determination you showed. Uncovering the truth was never going to be easy. As much as the world may see your success in bringing down a powerful organization, there were battles you fought alone. The emotional and mental toll of chasing the truth, of exposing a hidden force that had controlled so many, was far heavier than anyone could have understood. You constantly had to confront doubt and fear. Was it worth it? Was the pain, the sleepless nights, the isolation worth the ultimate victory? There were times when you felt like you were losing in the fight. Each piece of evidence you uncovered felt like a weight added to your shoulders, each revelation making the task ahead seem more insurmountable. But you kept going, not because it was easy, but because you knew that someone had to. The emotional burden was immense, but you refused to let it break you. Every time the darkness closed in, you found the strength to push forward. The journey wasn't just about the external struggle. It was about fighting your own fears, doubts, and the emotional cost of uncovering a truth that could never be undone. In the end, you emerged from this journey forever changed, not just by the victory, but by the inner strength you discovered within yourself. You learned that real courage isn't the absence of fear. It's the willingness to face it head on, no matter how heavy the emotional weight may be. When you first started your investigation, you thought it was a battle you had to fight alone. But as you dug deeper, you realized something incredible. You were not the only one who had noticed the darkness lurking beneath the surface. Slowly, quietly, you began to find others. Individuals who had their own suspicions, their own pieces of the puzzle. The greatest lesson you learned was that you didn't have to do this alone. The fight for justice is never a solitary pursuit. It is a collective effort. The people who joined you, those who brought their own skills, insights, and courage to the table, became an essential part of the movement. Together, you were able to share information, pull resources, and create a force much stronger than any single individual could have mustered. This collaboration didn't just amplify your efforts, it transformed the entire narrative. What was once an isolated investigation became a united front for truth. The collective energy, the shared vision for a better world, helped dismantle the cult faster and more thoroughly than you could have ever imagined. It reminded you that no matter how powerful the enemy may seem, unity is always a stronger force. And through this collaboration, you also realized the true power of people coming together with a common purpose. Your journey was a testament to the idea that when individuals unite in the name of justice, they can move mountains. There were times when you wanted to quit, times when the weight of the investigation, the pressure of uncovering the truth, became too much to bear. Every new lead seemed to bring you closer to danger, closer to the edge of losing everything. In those moments, you felt a deep sense of despair. What if you couldn't do it? What if all your efforts were in vain? But then, something within you shifted. When you were on the verge of giving up, something within you found the strength to continue. It wasn't about being fearless. It was about the determination to move forward even when it seemed impossible. You realized that the path to victory was never linear. It was a roller coaster of emotions, filled with highs and lows, with moments of doubt and triumph. Every setback became an opportunity for growth. You learned how to persevere in the face of fear and doubt. And when you finally saw the fruits of your labor, the downfall of the cult, the global awareness that followed, you understood that it was all worth it. The emotional journey, the turmoil, the sacrifices, they had all led you to this moment of victory. The truth is, no one ever warned you how emotionally taxing this journey would be. But in the end, the roller coaster of emotions became part of your story, a reminder that true triumph is often born from the deepest of struggles. The most powerful part of your journey wasn't just the fight against the cult, it was the transformation you underwent in the process. You began as someone who was searching for answers, trying to make sense of the world around you. You were confused, overwhelmed, and unsure of your place in this fight. But as you uncovered the truth, you also uncovered a new version of yourself. You went from being a victim of circumstance, swept into a world of mystery and danger, to a victor who stood tall in the face of insurmountable odds. Your transformation wasn't just about what you did. It was about who you became in the process. You discovered strength and resilience you never knew existed, and you realized that your destiny was in your own hands. You weren't just uncovering the truth for the sake of others. You were also uncovering your own power, your own capacity for change. The journey may have started with doubt, but it ended with a sense of purpose and empowerment. You became a living testament to the idea that even in the darkest of times, the human spirit has the ability to rise and conquer. When you chose to expose the cult, you knew there would be consequences. What you didn't know was how deeply those consequences would affect you.